Well, we are following a developing story out of both the political world and the legal world.
Mm-hmm.
President Trump has just picked Alina Habba to be the interim U.S. attorney
Yes.
for the District of New Jersey.
This is pretty big news.
Big news.
It's something that people are talking about a lot because of her history.
Yeah, you've probably seen Alina Habba in the news a lot recently.
Right.
She's been a very public figure as President Trump's personal attorney.
Yes.
And then more recently, she also became White House counselor.
Mm-hmm.
So now she's been put in charge of federal prosecutions in New Jersey.
That's right.
For the time being.
And it was announced on Trump's Truth Social platform.
Of course.
Which is where he makes most of his announcements these days.
Makes sense.
And in his statement, he expressed confidence that Alina would lead with diligence and conviction.
Diligence and conviction.
And that she would fight for a legal system that was fair and just for the people of New Jersey.
Fair and just for the people of New Jersey.
Those capital letters.
Yeah, that sounds familiar.
Mm-hmm.
So Alina Habba reacted to this pretty quickly.
Yeah.
She went on X, used to be Twitter.
That's right.
To share her honor at the appointment and vow to end the weaponization of justice once and for all.
That's a big statement.
Pretty bold.
Yeah, and I think it tells us a lot about how she sees this new job.
Yeah, it definitely signals her perspective.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We should also talk about who she's replacing.
Okay.
The current interim U.S. attorney is John Giordano, and Trump is planning to nominate him to be the ambassador to Namibia.
Wow, so there's like a diplomatic reshuffling happening at the same time?
Yeah, there's a lot going on here.
So let's talk more about Alina Habba. I mean, who is she beyond these big roles she's had?
Well, she's from New Jersey.
Okay.
And she actually talked about that when she reacted to the news.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. And before becoming a lawyer, she worked in fashion.
Really?
Yeah, for a couple of years, she was a merchandiser at Marc Jacobs.
Wow, that's a pretty big name in fashion.
Yeah, it is.
So how did she go from that to law?
Well, she went to law school and graduated from Widener University Commonwealth Law School in 2011.
Okay.
After that, she did a year-long clerkship.
Which is like an apprenticeship for new lawyers.
Exactly. It's where they get real experience in the courts.
Okay.
Then she spent about 8 years in private practice at 2 different law firms, focusing on civil and commercial litigation.
So that's like disputes between people or businesses, not criminal cases.
Exactly. And in 2020, she started her own law firm doing the same kind of work.
Okay, so she's got a lot of experience with private disputes, but how did she end up working with Trump?
Well, it sounds like they met through Trump's golf club in Bedminster, New Jersey.
Oh, so just through that connection.
Yeah, but she really became one of his main lawyers when she represented him in that huge lawsuit against the New York Times and his niece, Mary L. Trump.
Oh, yeah, that was a big case.
It was.
Got a lot of attention.
Yeah, so that's how she really became part of his inner circle.
Okay, so let's talk about the cases she's handled for Trump. What kind of results has she gotten?
Well, like you said, the lawsuit against the New York Times was thrown out by the court.
Right.
And overall, her record representing Trump is kind of mixed.
Mixed, okay.
There were some cases that Trump considered wins.
Like what?
Well, when Summer Zervos dropped her defamation lawsuit against him, he saw that as a victory.
Oh, right. Summer Zervos, she was a contestant on The Apprentice.
Yeah, that's right.
And she accused Trump of some pretty bad stuff.
Yeah, she did. And when she dropped the case, Trump was really happy about it.
But there have been some pretty big losses too, haven't there?
Yeah, there have.
Like, what stands out to you?
I mean, probably the biggest one was that lawsuit Mrs. Habba filed, claiming that Hillary Clinton and a bunch of other people were part of some big conspiracy to hurt Trump's reputation.
Oh, yeah, I remember that one.
The judge in that case didn't just dismiss it.
He was really mad about it, wasn't he?
Yeah, he basically said that the court was being used for political revenge.
Wow.
And then he fined Trump and Mrs. Habba almost $1 million.
$1 million? That's crazy.
Yeah, it's super unusual for a lawyer to be punished like that.
Especially for something political.
Right, and now she's been appointed to be a top federal prosecutor.
I mean, that raises some serious questions about whether law and politics are getting mixed up.
It definitely does.
So aside from those specific cases, Alina Habba has been seen with Trump a lot, especially since he was indicted.
Yeah, she's become one of his main legal spokespeople, going on TV and defending him.
And she was right there with him during that civil fraud trial in New York.
That's right.
It's clear she's become a lot more public in the last few years.
Yes, she has.
We should also talk about the money involved in this relationship.
Okay.
Because reports say that Mrs. Habba's law firm got around $3.6 million from political action committees
Wow.
that are connected to Trump.
That's a lot of money.
It is, and it shows how much Trump trusts her.
Yeah, it definitely does.
And she's been very open about supporting him, even when it comes to his ethics.
Like, what do you mean?
Well, remember that interview she did on Fox News after he was indicted for those classified documents?
Oh, yeah.
She said very clearly that he was the most ethical American I know.
Wow. That's a strong statement, considering all the legal trouble he's in. It shows how loyal she is to him.
And Trump has given her some pretty glowing endorsements, too.
Like what?
Well, when he appointed her as White House counsel, he said she was a tireless advocate for justice, a fierce defender of the rule of law, and that she has unwavering loyalty.
He clearly values her a lot.
He does, and their relationship seems to be both professional and personal.
It does.
So after she was appointed as U.S. Attorney, Mrs. Habba talked to reporters.
Okay.
And she said some interesting things about what she plans to do.
Yeah?
She said she wants to fight corruption and injustice in New Jersey.
Interesting.
And she specifically called out Senator Cory Booker and Governor Phil Murphy, both Democrats, saying they failed the state.
Wow, so she's bringing politics into this job right away.
She is, and she also said she wants to work with Pam Bondi.
Pam Bondi, she was involved in the Trump administration at the Department of Justice.
That's right. And Ms. Habba said they'll work together to push Trump's agenda.
What agenda is that?
She said it's putting America first, cleaning up mess, and going after the people that we should be going after, not the people that are falsely accused.
That sounds like she has a pretty specific plan for the U.S. Attorney's Office.
It does, and all of this is happening while a very interesting case has just been moved to New Jersey.
What case is that?
It's the case of Mahmoud Khalil. He's a Columbia University graduate and a green card holder who was detained by ICE.
I see. Wow.
Yeah, and now his case is going to be handled by the office Mrs. Habba is in charge of.
So this puts her right in the middle of a case that could have big consequences.
Legally and politically.
Exactly.
So it's pretty clear that Alina Habba has become one of Trump's most important allies.
Absolutely. I mean, she's more than just a lawyer. She's like a spokesperson for him on TV and in the media.
Right. She's defending him everywhere, not just in court.
And she's also been a senior advisor to his campaign, even speaking at the Republican National Convention.
And at his rallies.
Yeah, she's clearly a key part of his whole strategy.
And don't forget, she's a first-generation American who started her own law firm.
That's true. She's accomplished a lot on her own.
It shows how driven she is.
Yeah, and it all really started with that Summer Zervos case.
Right, the one that was eventually dropped.
Even though it was dropped just by taking on that case, she showed how loyal she was to Trump.
It was a big sign of commitment.
It was.
So just to recap, what's really important here is that Trump has appointed Alina Habba to be the interim U.S. attorney for the District of New Jersey.
And she's not just any lawyer. She's been his personal attorney and White House counselor.
And she's already said she wants to tackle what she calls corruption and injustice in New Jersey.
And she specifically mentions some Democratic politicians she sees as problems.
Right, so this appointment brings up some really big questions.
What kind of question?
Well, given how close she is to Trump and how open she's been about her goals, it makes you wonder what this means for the legal system in New Jersey.
And maybe even beyond New Jersey.
Exactly. Will she use her position to help Trump or to go after his enemies?
It's definitely something to keep an eye on.
It is, because it could have a huge impact on how justice is done in this country.
It really could.
So we'll be following this story closely, and we'll keep you updated on what happens next.
Sounds good.
Thanks for listening.
Thanks for having me.
And we'll be back soon with another deep dive.
Looking forward to it.
Bye for now.